More people are getting rolled up because of Laken Riley. You're damn right they are.
That was Joey on the 5 with Fox News, really laying down the law against these activist judges who are helping, aiding and abetting violent criminal illegal aliens avoid the law and justice. He's also upset with people like Jessica Tarlov on the 5, who seems to be supporting not only these activist judges, but the public who are supporting the activist judges and trying to distract us with words like due process for the judges and the violent criminal illegal aliens. There are really 2 judges that have been arrested recently that have set Joey off. The first one was a lady in Milwaukee who literally had a violent criminal illegal alien in her courthouse for trial and decided it would be a good idea to let him quite literally out the back door and back onto the street. At which point, deputies and ICE had to chase this guy down in the public to get him arrested again. And of course, that endangered everybody in the public inside and outside of the courthouse. Watch this quick summary.
Protesters gathered outside the Milwaukee County Courthouse today, shortly after the arrest of Circuit Court Judge Dugan, who is accused of helping an illegal immigrant, Eduardo Flores Ruiz, avoid arrest by ICE officers at that courthouse. The criminal complaint against Dugan says, quote, despite having been advised of the administrative warrant for the arrest of Flores Ruiz, Judge Dugan then escorted Flores Ruiz and his counsel out of the courtroom through the jury door, which leads to a non-public area of the courthouse.
The second activist judge is from New Mexico, and he thought it would be a good idea to house a Venezuelan TDA gang member, violent criminal, in his home and thereby avoid the law. Watch this.
Judge Cano and his wife were arrested for harboring a TDA member at their home.
Yeah, that's the judge up on the screen now who got arrested. Yeah, his name is Ortega. He is a known TDA member, So he comes through Eagle Pass December 2023. He's living in our country. January 2025, ICE, they get a tip. Tom Homan's done a great job. Our FBI did a great job on this case, too. They get a tip that he is living with a judge and the judge's wife. So they have him arrested first on immigration charges. A Judge Damian Martinez releases him, saying that Judge Cano has a good BS meter and wouldn't let just anyone live on his property.
You really need to watch this next clip, which is Joey just doing an amazing job of accurately, emotionally, just encapsulating the frustration so many of us feel. The Trump administration, Department of Justice, ICE, law enforcement, not to mention over half the population that put President Trump in office in no small part to deport violent, criminal, illegal immigrants from our country. Watch this.
Somebody whose actual purpose in this world is to enact justice and sometimes be the sole deciding factor on what justice is, who sits in front of people and has their entire lives in her hands, and she can't do something as simple as obey the law herself, and we should just hide it under the rug, bring her into a room and pat her on the hand for putting a guy back out on the street or trying to hide a guy from the proper authorities who punched someone 30 times and then struck a woman trying to break it up. With all due respect, this whole argument about these Venezuelan gang members or people who say they aren't in a gang, but they've got MS-13 and code on their knuckles. To say that, well, whatever it, okay, well, not everybody. You've also sat here and argued against using tattoos to say if someone's a member of MS-13. So anyone who has a tie to MS-13 or the government suspects of it, if you tell me that they deserve due process, I tell you that I know Laken Riley's dad, and I would go out and kick every one of them out of this country just because of Laken Riley. So when Frederica Wilson said something like more people are getting rolled up because of Laken Riley, you're damn right they are, because this whole country saw what happened to Laken Riley. And we said, hell no. And then that act was passed by Congress that we voted in and signed into law by a president that we voted in. And if not being for due process for illegal immigrants that come here and commit crime makes me a bad American, okay, well, at least I'm still American, and that's a hell of a lot more than they are.
But conservative juggernauts like Antonin Scalia have spoken about the fact that people who are here undocumented deserve due process.
They can have their intellectual arguments. I live in the real world where people get hurt, where my sister gets a head-on collision from a drunk illegal who was brought here by a coyote that the Biden administration was happy letting operate. I live in the real world. I don't live in New York. I don't live in D.C. I don't live by the Supreme Court. I live in Northwest Georgia. I live in a town that's 78% Hispanic
Anymore?
Abrego,
Absolutely, we're not a
Abrego
nation of
had
laws.
due process.
That's why all those people are here.
Have to really give a shout out to Joey for just being honest. You need to understand he's American, he's a veteran, he's a Marine, he's given so much to the country. And as I said earlier, he's just encapsulating the frustration all of us are feeling. And I'm so glad people like Joey are around to just be honest, not to be politically correct, not to beat around the bush, not to talk about, due process or be distracted by false claims of lack of due process. We have a real problem in this country. And it's unfortunately not just one problem. The problem we all see, these violent criminal illegal immigrants that, as per the Constitution, have no right to stay here indefinitely. They need to leave. They need to be deported. That's part of the problem. But the other problem is we have these activist judges who seem to think they're above the law. And clearly they are not. And thank goodness the Trump administration and Department of Justice are really going after these judges. They're arresting them. They need to be disbarred so they can never practice law again. But beyond that, how did these judges get here in the first place? And that really needs to be addressed, and that needs to stop. And the answer is they were appointed. So I would say to the Republicans in the House and Senate, y'all need to start delivering actionable items, okay? And let's talk about these judges. Quit letting them get approved. I mean, stop it. You all go to Congress and you all talk, and sometimes it's humorous. You write all these bills that people can't even read. We never get to see. Why don't you do something actionable and deliverable, like preventing these lunatic activist judges from becoming judges and thereby putting the rest of us in danger? And I know somebody's going to say, well, that's too difficult. Hey, man, figure it out. Figure out how to stop appointing activist judges that put the rest of us in this country at risk from violent, criminal, illegal immigrants. Just do your job. As always, until next time, God bless. Love y'all.